The Last Oath of Michael Patrick. The wind howled like a wounded beast across the frozen cliffs of the north. Snow fell in silence, thick, heavy, unforgiving. And in the middle of that endless white storm stood one man, Michael Patrick. A name once whispered with respect, now spoken with fear. He wasn't born into power, he wasn't raised to rule, but war had a way of carving kings out of broken men. Michael tightened his grip on the sword in his hand. The steel was cold, but his heart was colder. Behind him stood what remained of his army, barely 1,000 men, hungry, tired, half of them wounded. And in front of him, an army that didn't breathe, didn't feel, didn't stop. "They're coming," the words came from a young soldier beside him, his voice trembling. Michael didn't turn. I know, because he could feel it. The ground itself seemed to pulse, as if something ancient was waking beneath it. Years ago, Michael Patrick was just a soldier, a loyal one. He fought for a king who promised peace, but delivered nothing but blood. Villages burned, children cried, and every time Michael raised his sword, a part of his soul died with it. Until the day he refused an order. "Burn the village," the commander had said. "They're harboring rebels." Michael looked at the terrified faces, mothers clutching their children, old men kneeling in silence, and he said one word: "No." That single word changed everything. He was branded a traitor, hunted, left for dead. But death didn't take him. Instead, it gave him purpose. He wandered the lands beyond the wall, a place where maps ended and nightmares began. There he found something no man was meant to find: truth. The stories were real, the darkness was real, and the real war, wasn't between kings, it was between the living and what waited in the cold. Michael returned a different man, not a soldier, not a servant, but a leader. He didn't fight for crowns anymore. He fought for survival. "Form the line!" he shouted, his voice cut through the storm like thunder. Men rushed into position, shields locking together. Torches flickered against the wind. Fear was everywhere, but so was something else. Hope, because they had Michael Patrick. The first sound came like cracking ice, then silence. And from the white fog they appeared, figures of shadow and frost, eyes glowing like blue fire, an army of the dead. "Hold!" Michael roared. His sword burned with a faint glow, the last gift from a forgotten priestess who once told him, "You are not meant to win, you are meant to stand." The dead charged, and hell broke loose. Steel clashed against bone, fire met ice, men screamed, and still they kept coming. Michael fought like a storm unleashed. Every swing of his blade shattered enemies into frozen dust. But for every one he destroyed, 10 more took its place. A soldier fell beside him, then another and another. The line was breaking. "Fall back!" someone screamed, but Michael didn't move. He couldn't, because behind him was everything. The last city, the last hope, the last chance for mankind. If he moved, everything would fall. So he stood. A blade pierced his side. He grunted but didn't fall. Another strike, then another. Blood stained the snow beneath him, but still he fought.
Memories flashed before his eyes, the village he saved, the people he lost, the promise he made, never again. With one final roar, Michael drove his sword into the ground. The blade ignited, light exploded outward, blinding, burning, unstoppable. The dead stopped. For a moment, time itself seemed to freeze, and then they shattered. One by one, the army of darkness crumbled into nothing, carried away by the wind as if they had never existed. Silence returned, heavy, sacred. The surviving soldiers looked around in disbelief. They were alive. They had won. But when they turned, Michael Patrick was on his knees, his sword dim, his body broken. A young soldier rushed to him. "We did it! We survived!" Michael smiled faintly. "No," his voice was barely a whisper. "You survived." And with that, the man who stood against the end of the world closed his eyes. The wind carried his name across the frozen lands, not as a king, not as a hero, but something far greater. A man who chose to stand when everyone else would have run.